Rainy day blues. The engine coughed one last, rattling protest before dying completely. Tom slammed his fist against the steering wheel, the cheap plastic groaning under the impact. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the already dismal view of the deserted country road. "Is Betsy sick, Daddy?" Lily asked, her voice small from the back seat. Betsy was what Lily had named the ancient, sputtering Ford. "Yeah, sweetie? Betsy's got a bit of a cough," Tom said, forcing a cheerfulness he didn't feel. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily was bundled in her threadbare unicorn blanket, but her face was pale. He wrestled with the door, the rusty hinges screaming in protest. The rain was icy, instantly soaking him to the bone as he popped the hood. He peered inside at the tangled mess of wires and hoses. He knew next to nothing about cars, but he figured fiddling with something was better than nothing. "Stay in the car, Lilybug. Keep warm." Lily, bless her heart, didn't argue. She knew when Daddy was stressed. He could see her breath fogging the window as he wrestled with a greasy spark plug, the metallic tang of rust filling his nostrils. 30 minutes later, soaked and defeated, Tom slammed the hood shut. It was no use. He didn't have the tools, the knowledge, or frankly, the money to fix whatever was wrong. Swallowing his pride, he trudged back to the car. "We're walking, Lily. To the bus stop." He pointed vaguely down the road. "It's not too far." He knew he was lying. Lily coughed, a dry, hacking sound that sent a jolt of fear through him. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" "My throat tickles," she mumbled, pulling the blanket tighter. The rain seemed to intensify as they walked, the wind whipping at them. Lily struggled to keep up, her little legs pumping furiously. Tom scooped her up, his own exhaustion forgotten in his concern for her. The bus stop was just a metal shelter offering minimal protection from the elements. Lily was shivering, her teeth chattering. He wrapped her in his sodden jacket, knowing it wasn't much help. "Daddy, I'm cold." "I know, baby. The bus will be here soon." He checked his watch. 3:15. The bus was supposed to come at 3 o'clock. He hadn't factored in the breakdown, the walk, the everything. He'd missed Lily's doctor's appointment. The thought hit him like a punch to the gut. The appointment he'd scrimped and saved for, the one he'd rearranged his entire schedule to make. Dr. Sharma was the best pediatrician in the county, and Lily needed to see her. Her cough had been getting steadily worse, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a cold. He pulled Lily closer, burying his face in her damp hair. He was failing her. He couldn't fix the car, he couldn't keep her warm, and now he was going to miss the appointment that could make her better. The weight of his failures threatened to crush him. The rain continued to fall, each drop a tiny hammer blow against his resolve. A helping hand. The old bus shelter offered little respite from the biting wind. Tom pulled Lily closer, zipping her thin jacket higher. He hated this. Hated the waiting, the cold, the helplessness etched on his daughter's face. They settled into the car's plush interior, a world away from the grimy bus stop. Lily immediately started chatting. "I'm Lily, and this is my daddy, Tom. We're going to the library." "I love the library." "It's lovely to meet you, Lily." "I'm Sarah." She smiled at Lily in the rearview mirror, then offered Tom a brief, assessing glance. He looked exhausted, dark circles shadowing his eyes. His clothes, while clean, were worn, and he carried himself with a weary slump. "Are you going to the library too?" Lily continued, her voice full of innocent curiosity. "Not today, sweetheart. I have some meetings downtown." Sarah paused, then gently inquired, "Do you go to the library often?" "Every week. Daddy tries to take me. But sometimes—" Lily lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Sometimes we can't. Because the bus costs money, and sometimes we don't have enough." Tom tensed beside her, a flush rising on his cheeks. He opened his mouth to interject, but Sarah spoke first, her voice carefully neutral. "Libraries are wonderful places. It's good that your dad makes the effort to take you." She turned her attention back to the road, her brow furrowed slightly. She caught Tom's eye in the rearview mirror. He looked away, shame evident in his posture. The rest of the ride passed in relative silence. Sarah dropped them off directly in front of the library, a subtle gesture of kindness that didn't go unnoticed. "Thank you so much," Tom mumbled, wresting the stroller from the trunk. "We really appreciate it." "You're very welcome," Sarah replied, her gaze lingering on him. "Have a good day." As she drove away, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just glimpsed a life teetering on the edge. A life that could use a helping hand. Missed appointments and mounting worries. The automatic doors hissed open, and Tom stumbled into the sterile waiting room, Lily practically skipping beside him. He was a mess, shirt untucked, hair disheveled, a frantic energy radiating off him. Lily, oblivious to his internal turmoil, was already eyeing the fish tank bubbling in the corner. "Good morning," Lily chirped, waving at the receptionist, a woman whose face seemed permanently etched with mild disapproval. Tom winced, glancing at the clock on the wall, 10:17 a.m. He'd miscalculated the traffic, or rather, he'd completely underestimated how long it would take to convince Lily that her sparkly pink boots were, in fact, appropriate for a doctor's visit. "We're here for Lily Evans' appointment," he said, trying to sound composed despite the frantic hammering in his chest. The receptionist, whose name tag read Brenda, didn't look up from her computer. "Name? Evans, Lily Evans." Brenda's fingers tapped on the keyboard for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she sighed, a sound that suggested Tom was personally responsible for the world's problems. "I'm afraid you missed your appointment, Mr. Evans. It was scheduled for 9:30. The breath hitched in Tom's throat. "Missed it? But I had it marked on the calendar." "Are you sure?" He pulled out his phone, fumbling with the screen. The calendar app glared back at him, a stark white square with Lily, Doctor, emblazoned in bold red letters for 9:30 a.m. "Quite sure," Brenda said, her voice as flat as the linoleum floor. "We called twice. No answer." Tom remembered the incessant buzzing of his phone earlier. He'd silenced it, afraid it would wake Lily, who was still getting dressed at a snail's pace. "Look, I am so sorry. Is there any way we can still see the doctor? It's really important." He ran a hand through his already chaotic hair. He hated pleading, but Lily's persistent cough had taken a turn the past few days, rattling in her chest with an unsettling wetness. Lily, momentarily distracted from the fish, tugged on his jeans. "Daddy, the fish are blowing bubbles. Can we get bubbles for my bath tonight?" Tom squeezed her hand, trying to offer a reassuring smile. "Maybe, sweetie. Let me just talk to the nice lady." Brenda remained unmoved. "The doctor's fully booked for the rest of the day. We can reschedule you for next week." "Next week?" That felt like an eternity. The worry gnawed at him, a cold, hard knot in his stomach. "Next week is too long. This is about Lily's health. She hasn't been feeling well. Is there absolutely nothing you can do?" His voice was sharper now, edged with desperation. He didn't mean to snap, but the mounting pressure was suffocating. He could feel Lily watching him, her bright eyes reflecting his anxiety back at him. Brenda finally looked up, her expression a mixture of boredom and mild annoyance. "I can put you on the cancellation list, but there's no guarantee." Tom deflated. A cancellation list was better than nothing, but the uncertainty was a fresh wave of torment. He pictured Lily's small, pale face, her cough echoing through their tiny apartment. He felt like he was failing her. "Okay," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Please, put us on the cancellation list." The CEO's dilemma. The polished mahogany reflected the boardroom's stark lighting, mirroring the taut expressions etched on the faces around it. Sarah listened, a cold dread settling in her stomach as Mr. Henderson, the marketing director, unveiled the quarter's performance. Revenue had climbed, yet the share price stubbornly refused to budge. A low current of dissatisfaction hummed through the room. She broke the silence, her voice carrying with unexpected force. "Maybe we're missing the bigger picture," she proposed, her outward calm masking inner turmoil. "What steps are we taking to engage meaningfully with the community? To demonstrate that Innovate Solutions stands for more than just chasing bottom lines?" A few dubious glances met her words. Mr. Davies, the CFO, scoffed. "Charity is all well and good, Ms. Walker, but it doesn't directly translate into increased shareholder dividends." "Granted, not directly," Sarah conceded, "but it fosters trust, fortifies our corporate identity, and attracts top-tier talent. Think of it as an investment in our long-term viability." Ms. Jenkins, the head of HR, offered unexpected support. "We do have a fledgling community program. It's primarily volunteer-driven, supporting local schools and food banks." "Fledgling is being generous," Henderson countered, waving a dismissive hand. "It's a rounding error on the balance sheet." Sarah's thoughts drifted to the parking lot encounter, to Tom's threadbare clothes and Lily's hopeful gaze. She recalled the quiet desperation in his plea, the dignity he somehow maintained amidst adversity. The memory stood in stark contrast to the luxurious boardroom, the tailored suits, and the clinical dissection of profit margins. "I'd like a deeper dive into this program," Sarah declared, her tone resolute. "I believe we can amplify its impact, make it a force for good." Davies arched an eyebrow. "Are you proposing a substantial allocation of resources, Ms. Walker?" "I'm suggesting we analyze its potential," Sarah countered smoothly. "Perhaps a recalibration of our priorities is warranted." The meeting wore on, but Sarah's attention was elsewhere. The spreadsheets and marketing jargon faded, replaced by the indelible image of Lily's drawing clutched so tightly in her small fist. a depiction of a home, a family, and a future she deserved. Later, in her penthouse, the cityscape glittering far below, Sarah stared out, a glass of wine untouched beside her. She pictured Tom struggling against the odds to provide for his daughter. She considered the immense leverage she possessed, the resources at her command. The CEO's conundrum weighed on her. Could she reconcile the demands of corporate success with the dictates of her conscience? Could she leverage her position to truly impact lives, to help those like Tom and Lily gain solid ground? The answer, she knew implicitly, was yes. All she needed was a strategy. Flyers and fortunes. Each leaflet. Sweat stung his eyes, a hazy film blurring the numbers. He pictured Lily's downcast expression if tonight was another night of meager fare. He slid a flyer into a brownstone's mailbox, the sharp thwack of metal a stark punctuation mark in the street's symphony of engines. He'd promised her pizza, a rare delight dangling precariously on this flyer route's completion. The sleek, glass edifice of Innovate Solutions finally loomed ahead, its logo a beacon. Tom squared his shoulders, smoothed his damp shirt, and entered the cool, revolving portal. Relief washed over him. He approached the reception desk, a pristine marble altar. Flyers, he announced to the blonde receptionist, a statue of practiced disinterest. Without lifting her gaze from the screen, she gestured. Mailrooms down the hall. Left. The mailroom was a functional box, where he deposited his remaining burden. Turning, a glass wall offered a glimpse into the corporate hive. A sea of desks, each occupied by a worker absorbed in digital pursuits. The air vibrated with the quiet hum of servers and hushed voices. Far above, on the executive floor, Sarah Walker stared out her office window, the remnants of her morning coffee growing cold in its mug. Below, the city pulsed, a vibrant organism of aspirations and failures. Her eyes followed the snaking traffic, the hurried strides of pedestrians. And then, she spotted him. Even from that height, she recognized the droop of his shoulders, the stubborn set of his jaw. Tom. He lingered outside Innovate Solutions as if summoning his strength before facing the world again. A cold fist clenched in her gut. What was he doing here? Had he actually considered her suggestion and applied? Or was this merely a twist of fate? The implications spiraled, each more disquieting than the last. She watched him recede into the urban landscape, his form diminishing with each step. A wave of remorse crashed over her. She hadn't offered her card. She'd given only lukewarm advice, a hollow platitude. Sarah turned from the window, the panoramic view suddenly dull. The weight of running a company, negotiating deals, and answering to a board pressed down on her. Yet, the image of Tom, sweating beneath the oppressive sun as he distributed flyers, remained, an unwelcome reminder of the realities beyond her carefully curated existence. An anonymous suggestion, the garish yellow flyer, still pinned to her corkboard, seemed to mock her. Reliable rides, Tom Hansen, affordable rates. The cheap cardstock, the slightly crooked font, the earnest promise of safe transport. It all screamed desperation. Sarah turned away from it, back to the panoramic view from her corner office. But even the glittering cityscape couldn't erase the image. Below, on the street, a figure leaned against a battered sedan, hands shoved deep in his pockets, shoulders slumped. Tom. Even from 15 stories up, she could sense the weight he carried. Guilt, sharp and persistent, gnawed at her. She could alleviate so much of his burden with a phone call, a signature, a decision. But the risks, exposure, accusations of impropriety, the potential unraveling of everything she'd built, they felt insurmountable. She swiveled back to her computer. Anonymity. That was the only way. She couldn't directly intervene, but she could suggest. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, composing an email to HR. Short, to the point. Received unsolicited resume. Impressive skill set. Attached for your consideration. Position, software engineer. No name, no return address, just a burner email account she'd created years ago for situations exactly like this, situations she'd sworn she'd never use. Attached was a digital copy of Tom's resume, painstakingly recreated from the information on that awful yellow flyer, and a quick online search. She'd embellished slightly, highlighting his aptitude for problem-solving and emphasizing his self-taught coding skills. It wasn't a lie, she'd seen the way he'd effortlessly navigated the city's labyrinthine streets that day. That took a certain kind of intelligence. The email sent, Sarah felt a flicker of relief, quickly followed by a fresh wave of anxiety. Had she done the right thing? Would HR even look at an anonymous submission? 3 days later, Tom was wrestling with a stubborn stroller in the park when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer, thinking it was another potential client haggling over fares. Tom Hansen? The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, female. Speaking. He braced himself for a negotiation. This is Emily Carter from Innovate Solutions. We received your resume and were very impressed with your qualifications. We'd like to invite you for an interview. Tom's jaw dropped. Innovate Solutions? The tech giant that dominated the city's skyline? He swallowed hard, trying to find his voice. I don't remember sending you my resume. Emily chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. That's all right, Mr. Hansen. Sometimes these things happen. Are you available for an interview next Tuesday at 10 a.m.? Tom, still reeling, somehow managed to stammer out an acceptance. As he hung up, he stared at his phone, a bewildered grin spreading across his face. An interview at Innovate Solutions? It felt like a dream he didn't dare wake from. Interview jitters. The glass doors of Innovate Solutions hissed open, releasing a wave of perfumed air that hinted at citrus and vaulting ambition. Sunlight flooded the lobby through towering windows, showcasing a stark panorama of polished concrete and cold steel. A familiar queasiness twisted in Tom's gut, a stark contrast to the welcoming disarray of home crayon masterpieces adorning the walls, the gentle fragrance of Lily's lavender bath soap. He approached the reception desk, a pristine crescent moon manned by a woman whose cheekbones could cut glass and whose ponytail defied gravity. Tom Evans, he mumbled, tugging at the tie now constricting his throat. Please take a seat, Mr. Evans. Mr. Harding and Miss Sterling will be with you presently. He lowered himself into a low-slung leather chair, his eyes flitting around the room. Other candidates, exuding an unsettling self-assurance, were engrossed in their phones or flipping through immaculate presentations. A portfolio would have been wise, he now realized. All he possessed was a rumpled resume and a desperate plea to the universe. The delay stretched, each pulse of the minimalist clock on the wall amplifying his mounting anxiety. He struggled to recall the STAR framework: situation, task, action, result. But his mind stubbornly clung to images of Lily, expectant eyes awaiting his triumphant return. At last, the receptionist summoned him. He followed her down a seemingly endless corridor, his footfalls echoing across the gleaming expanse. He found himself in a conference room dominated by a vast table and two figures who radiated authority, a man with a military-precise haircut and a woman whose sharp gaze felt like an immediate autopsy. Harding and Sterling, without a doubt. Mr. Evans, thank you for joining us, Harding stated, his voice as sharp as his tailored suit. Please tell us about yourself. Tom launched into his practiced delivery, but his voice betrayed him, fracturing with nerves. He stumbled, omitted crucial details, and felt perspiration bead on his spine. The questions came like volleys. Describe a time you experienced failure. What are your compensation expectations? Why Innovate Solutions? He grappled with the failure query, excavating a disastrous college endeavor he'd rather forget. He undercut his worth, terrified of eliminating himself from consideration. And when asked about Innovate Solutions, he stammered something about the necessity of reliable income to support his daughter. Sterling arched a brow. Your daughter? He gulped. Yes, Lily. She's my world. Everything I do is for her. I want to provide her with stability, with opportunity. I'm prepared to dedicate myself completely to ensure that. A wave of fierce protectiveness washed over him, momentarily eclipsing his anxiety. Harding leaned in. That dedication is commendable, Mr. Evans. However, this position entails considerable travel and extended hours. How would you manage your parental commitments? The question hung in the balance, heavy with implied judgment. He thought of Sarah, her steadfast encouragement, her offer to watch Lily. I have a robust support network, he replied, meeting Harding's stare. It wouldn't impede my performance. He prayed he sounded genuine. He prayed they believed him. He prayed he wasn't committing a catastrophic error. Behind the screen, the monitor array glowed, a mosaic of faces suspended in the sterile ambience of the observation room. Sarah leaned back, the cool leather of her chair a stark contrast to the heat creeping up her neck. She justified this as due diligence, a need to stay ahead, but the justification left a bitter aftertaste. This was surveillance. Tom filled the primary screen. His tie hung loose, a subtle twitch betraying the anxiety tightening his jaw. He looked vulnerable. Exposed. Sarah edged forward, the server room's monotonous drone a persistent pulse against her skull. So, Mr. Davies, Ms. Chin, the interviewer, began, her tone polished and incisive. Why innovate solutions? What sparked your interest in this particular opening? Tom shuffled, running a hand through his already rumpled hair. Frankly, I need this. I need this opportunity. My daughter, Lily, she's everything. And providing for her has to be my priority. Sarah's chest constricted. It wasn't the practiced corporate jargon she'd anticipated. It was raw honesty. Ms. Chin jotted something down, her expression inscrutable. And what capabilities do you possess, Mr. Davies, that distinguish you as the most suitable candidate? A pause. He squared his shoulders. I learn quickly. I'm deeply committed. And I don't shy away from challenges. Life hasn't given me that option. The underlying strength resonated, an unspoken resilience. Sarah's grip on her coffee tightened. The tepid brew threatened to spill. A pang of guilt, sharp and unwanted, fractured her calculated detachment. She'd categorized him as a potential hurdle and annoyance. Now, reflected in the cold light of the screen, she saw a father fighting for his child's future. The interview concluded. Tom rose, a perfunctory handshake exchanged, and offered a strained smile. As he exited, Sarah felt a stab of something close to shame. She snatched up the phone, her pulse quickening. She hadn't meddled in personnel decisions in years. Not since, before she was Sarah Walker, CEO. Connect me with HR, she stated, her voice crisp and controlled, concealing the inner conflict. Moments later, Brenda's cheerful voice crackled through the receiver. Sarah, what can I do for you? Brenda, regarding the junior analyst interviews, today's candidates. There was a Mr. Davies. Thomas Davies. Brenda hesitated. Yes, I have his assessment here. Ms. Chin wasn't particularly impressed. Suggested his technical acumen was somewhat lacking for the role's specific demands. Sarah inhaled deeply. I observed his interview. He possesses untapped potential. Untamed talent. It would be worthwhile to invest in him. Offer supplementary training. Evaluate his progress. Silence hummed on the other end. Of course, Sarah. If that's your direction, we'll proceed accordingly. Sarah replaced the receiver, the weight of her intervention heavy on her shoulders. She had interfered. She had leveraged her authority. All for a man she scarcely knew. A man who had simply asked for a chance. She rotated her chair towards the panoramic window. The metropolis stretched before her, a glittering panorama of ambition and aspirations. She wondered if Tom's aspiration was as simple as ensuring his daughter had a home. A new beginning. The shrill ring sliced through Tom's restless slumber. Groping on the nightstand, he located the phone, its screen displaying Innovate Solutions. A surge of adrenaline tightened his chest. He rasped, attempting a semblance of alertness, Tom Baker here. Good morning, Mr. Baker. Emily Carter from Innovate Solutions calling. We are pleased to offer you the junior marketing assistant position. Your interview was exceptionally strong. Relief surged through him, a wave so powerful it nearly buckled his knees. I accept. Thank you, more than I can say. Emily detailed the formalities, paperwork, onboarding, a start date 2 weeks hence. 2 weeks. He could almost taste stability, envision regular dinners, the possibility of a real Christmas for Lily. The community event was a vibrant tapestry of sights and sounds. Giggles erupted from children sporting painted faces, a band plucked out cheerful tunes, the aroma of grilling hot dogs hung heavy in the air. Lily, her small fist gripping a snow cone leaving a trail of crimson stickiness down her hand, tugged at his jacket. Daddy, look. A bouncy house. He watched her disappear into the inflatable mass, her bright yellow raincoat a bobbing beacon. Leaning against a picnic table, a familiar anxiety gnawed at his insides. He still felt like an unmasked charlatan who had hoodwinked his way into something he didn't deserve. Enjoying the celebration? Tom turned to find a woman beside him. Dressed casually in jeans and a simple cerulean sweater, she exuded an undeniable presence. Her eyes, a striking silver, held a curious blend of compassion and an unreadable quality. He offered a wan smile. Yeah, Lily's having a great time. She seems like a bright girl. The woman paused, then offered her hand. I'm Sarah Walker. The handshake was like a mild electric shock, recognition slamming into him. Sarah Walker. The Sarah Walker. The face plastered across Innovate Solutions' website. The owner of the office he'd often gazed towards. His voice hitched. I know who you are. A fleeting shadow of melancholy crossed her features. And I know about you, Tom. About Lily. He braced for the axe to fall, the rescinding of the offer. But it didn't. Instead, she stated, Lily deserves every advantage. I want to provide one. Her voice dropped a notch. I'm launching a new initiative, a support system for single parents within the company. Consider Lily the prototype. Hope, tentative yet persistent, unfurled within him. What exactly do you mean? Tutoring, extracurriculars, anything she needs, we'll arrange it. And I want your input to help refine and amplify the program's impact. He gaped, speechless. He'd anticipated condemnation, perhaps pity. Not this unexpected lifeline. Why, he eventually managed to croak. Her gaze followed Lily, now attempting a precarious handstand against the bouncy castle's side. Because everyone is worthy of a chance, Tom. And because quite often, the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outwards, creating momentous change. They spent the remaining hours discussing possibilities, Sarah a rapt audience as Tom detailed Lily's challenges and her untapped potential. He began to glimpse a glimmer of that same potential within himself. Maybe, just maybe, this was a dawn, not just for him and Lily, but he perceived a quiet resolve etched on her face, perhaps for Sarah as well. She seemed eager to rewrite the narrative.